guys, welcome to another episode of Strat Guys Exchange. I'm excited today to hear some strategies and stories and ideas from someone who has really revolutionized the industry here in Singapore for photography and video work. I'm very happy today to be with Sebastian Tan from Shooting Gallery Asia, and I can't wait to hear some of his stories about how he brought Shooting Gallery to where it is today. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to jump in and introduce Sebastian. Sebastian here, you started Shooting Gallery back in 1987. How was it like? I mean, back in 1987, what was the scene like, and what made you decide to start on a production house like that?
I suppose I had no choice. That's the only thing that I have been doing for the past 7 years of my life. So when I was asked to leave, I have to continue from what I had been doing for the past 7 years. So I did not choose to start Shooting Gallery. It was something that I have to just get it done and do it.
Right.
Due to circumstances.
Right. So you became an entrepreneur basically out of necessity.
Even coming into doing photography is actually very much by accident.
Oh, really?
Because I had never imagined myself to be a photographer, or when I went to art school.
Yes.
And I did art, and in my mind that I will one day be a creative director, hopefully to be a creative director.
That was the plan, huh?
That was the plan, but circumstances have it such that I need the job so badly that I committed myself to join a photographer. My first impression of photography is, I know you're doing family portraits. Then I was wondering, what do I get myself into? Went to study art and thinking of doing art, because I need to finance myself and my family. The first job that came along, I thought that I should give it a shot.
Jump at it.
But surprisingly, when I went for the interview, I was quite impressed that the photographer was doing a lot of advertising work. So changed my perception of what photography. Even when I was in art school, we were not that open, exposed to the point to understand that there is such a thing as commercial photography.
Right.
Although we studied
art. Right.
So it was good, and I think that changed my life.
Yes.
Because instead of being a creative in an advertising agency or a design house, I became a photographer's assistant and
learned the ropes from there.
That's how history was set.
That was 33 years ago when you started Shooting Gallery.
Yes.
Wow.
33 years.
What's the toughest thing about running a production house over this last 33 years? I'm sure you've been through so many things.
We had a lot of ups and downs, but fortunately over the years, whenever it was down, it was good for us. Hopefully, COVID will also be a turning point for us to move forward.
Yes.
But I think this is a totally different animal.
Yeah. Tell me about COVID. How has Shooting Gallery gone through COVID? How was it for you guys?
That's tough. We had not had a lot of work, and in fact, we must actually have any kind of proper work that was before December. So we have got 7 months
December
without,
2019.
That's right.
Wow.
We got 7 months without income.
Really?
So
that sounds like even before COVID hit.
Yeah, because typically in this industry, festive season, circuit breaker, nothing got done.
Yeah.
But we're ready to go.
You still seem super positive despite the situation.
I think that's so important that we must have a positive attitude, because if we don't, then we will not see windows of opportunity, right? Because no point to cry over whatever spilt milk or whatever it is, because then we will be oblivious to any opportunities right in front of us. So I'm always sometimes people say that I'm a little bit too optimistic, but I look at it as being able to see opportunities, because you always look at possibilities, and from there then you explore and play devil's advocate to shoot it down and see where are the problems, rather than look at it and say, everything is not possible, everything is not going to work. Then we will not be able to see opportunities right in front of us. So I believe that you must always look at it from the positive perspective first, and look back and try to find fault with it.
This actually amazing advice right there. It's like literally that soundbite alone, right, can be used to encourage so many people in the industry. I mean, you've been there, done that, you've seen so much, and how would you advise a young photographer who probably was just starting out in this, and then boom, COVID hits? And how would you advise someone based on your mindset of positivity and seeing the opportunities?
I think whatever it is, we need to invest in our future, right? Whatever adversity, there will be opportunities. So if we stay positive and stay true to the cause, right? And sometimes a lot is how much you can persevere, right? And I think the biggest problem is not knowing how close you are to success if you had actually given up just before you achieve success. So it's sometimes if you believe in something, you must stay true to your cause. But then again, you must also be realistic to know and set your timeline, right? You can do a projection and try to make sure that you realize that timeline and check your milestones. Because if you don't allow yourself to meet your projections and halfway through it, you bail out, then you never realize what you had projected. Quite often, from my experience, when I first started shooting gallery, we have nothing. First thing I do was do a 5-year plan.
Oh,
and then
okay.
Preparing and say, okay, after the 3rd year, we should explore going into motion. And in those early years, photographers don't talk about motion, right? And you say as a photographer, you only look at stills.
There wasn't even digital at that time.
It wasn't.
Correct?
It was all analog. It was all film, right? And then I have this 5-year plan, looking at where the company will go, regionalize, go into different countries. After the 5th year, we start to explore and expand. Then, very interestingly, one of our partners, Karen, was with me and said, "Oh my goodness, we cannot even afford to buy a table. And you're talking about history, all the stationery that we create, got to go into archive, and and so that we can look back and track back how we started." Then I say that, look, sometimes it's better for us to have ambition and think big.
Yeah.
Even we don't realize it, if we just grope around blindly, then we have no target. We will not know where we'll lead to.
Right.
So it's so important to set a target, a bigger target than you think you can possibly do, and hopefully you'll be able to make it. Or if not, then you're somewhere there, rather than have no target, grope around in the dark and not sure where you will be, hoping that you'll survive.
When is a target too outrageous? At what point is the target like too outrageous?
Yeah, when we start to think that we're going to go regional, we're going to go global, and then all these wild ideas. But then the thing that I always told myself and my team that whatever ambitions we have, we keep it within ourselves, set ourselves a target. But we must always remain humble. I think humility is so important. When you're humble, people around you are more forthcoming to support and work with you. If you're arrogant and say, I'm this, I'm that, and you're not even there. So while we set ourselves high targets and make it very, very tough on ourselves, but when we convey and we communicate with people, we must always be humble and always look at how we can add value and support. And I always advise young people, do not chase after money. Because when we chase after money, money will be very elusive. So allow the work to speak for itself. Put in the investment for the future. Because in the creative industry, when people come after you, the more you say you don't want to do, the more you say you can't do, or you don't have the time to do it, they will make time for you. To a point where sometimes when you don't chase after money, money will chase after you. So I think it's quite interesting that creative industry always advise young people, put your investment today for your tomorrow, and let money chase after you. Because the more you don't want, the more it comes after you.
It's incredible.
So
that's a soundbite right there. That's amazing. That's amazing. Talking about setting targets and all that on a personal level, I always think that this question of how big a target to set, right? It hits a lot of young entrepreneurs, right? And I think that like self-awareness is so important, right? Sometimes we overestimate our own ability and all that, but at the same time, sometimes we too humble, you know what I mean? You underestimate, and then you realize that you can never really build something that you are actually capable of, right?
So that's exactly what I've been saying earlier. While you set yourself a very high standard, but you must also not be arrogant, right? You must come across to be sincere, and that is from the heart. You cannot put up a show, because at the end of the day, people can tell, right? Whether your body language or how they interact with you and how you communicate across, people will know. But when you set yourself a high standard, you push yourself and you'll be surprised. Set yourself a target, but you need to put yourself to go and think through and set yourself some targets. And sometimes it's good to push yourself, make it a bit more difficult, and you'll be surprised that actually there's a target for you to shoot. The biggest problem is being not knowing what you want to do, and you just hope, and then you're not focused, right? Then, yeah, after 2 years, you see that you do not know what you have achieved, what you have set yourself for. Because if not, then when you set yourself a certain targets, you know what to look out for, and if you look at your milestones, then you say, oh, maybe I'm a bit off, so I'm ahead. So when we started in China, right, our targets were so conservative. We hit our first year or second year target in the first few years.
When do you go into China?
We went into China in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the thinking behind? Because you always wanted to build something regional and all that.
Yeah, because
Everyone's so often afraid of the strategy going to China and the
I was
difficulties and
afraid.
all.
I was afraid. We were afraid to go to China because, for one, I'm a Peranakan. So I don't speak a word of Mandarin, right? So half the time they say Liu, then I say Tanisha, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Okay, 6.
I feel you.
So
no Chinese on this side either.
so there's always this fear when people say, oh, go to China, that's where the market is. We were so busy just servicing Southeast Asia that I have no need for China.
By the time you went into China, you were already in Vietnam.
We were already in
Indonesia.
Vietnam, Indonesia, so we have already regional presence then. So, but then again, what happened was one of the photographers, Zeling, right? One day he came up to me and said, Seb, well, I've been going up to Shanghai quite a bit and I like it there. Then, Singapore somehow seems to be a bit quiet, not as bullish as it used to be. The market in China is, wow, very vibrant, no? The most important thing is to have the right people. We need to find who is going to be there before we set up a
So you set up based on the people first.
Yes.
You think in terms of who's the right person to run it.
That's
before you say there's opportunity here, let me go after it, right?
That's right, yeah.
Right.
So when we have the right people, then we look at explore the opportunity and say, okay, since we think we have someone who we can trust, who will drive that market, then we should consider to explore being there. Then we start to explore. We spent 2 years doing due diligence. We almost bought over an ongoing business entity.
Okay.
That somehow along the way, a bit of a question as to whether we are buying a whole company or we're buying a shell. So eventually, from my intelligence and people in my connections, giving me tips as to there are questions being asked about if you are buying over this company and you're going to go on, why are they looking for new people?
Yeah.
Why are they looking for premises? Then the red flag, right?
The red flags came up.
Yeah, so I
yeah.
spoke to the local partner of that company.
Okay.
Then he said, why more? Then I said, no, there are certain discomfort. So some of the arrangements that we had agreed upon, I say we only pay you by milestones. From my own generosity, I say, if the projection is so good, right?
Yeah.
I will even give you a bonus if we realize those targets, right?
Yeah.
And this is something from me,
not
part of discussion.
Okay.
So if we realize that, since it's so viable, I will give you a bonus.
Nice.
That is goodwill, right? Then suddenly you come and tell me that your partners don't want all this goodwill. The partners say, when we sign, you pay us a deposit. When we hand over the key, you pay us the balance. We move on, why all these milestones, all that?
Yeah,
Then
red
I
flag,
say,
that's a red flag.
no go, right?
Yeah.
Either we go with what we
they're not
agree.
invested in what you all want
That's
to do.
right.
as
Then
well
I say we
together.
go.
Yeah.
So eventually he went back and said, we talked to the partners.
Yeah.
Then when he came back and told me, I'm so sorry, I have no idea. Yes, they were exploring. I got to take the money and then set up across the road.
Oh, wow.
They even got the place ready.
Actually,
So that's a no-go, is it?
The truth is, right, I've heard stories like this of businesses trying to set up in China over and over again, right?
Yeah.
If you don't play by their rules, they
That's
just come in and they just set up right beside
and
you.
more
and
so
they
if
go,
you're not there, right?
Oh,
and you're
even
not there
so,
to you're not there to manage it.
Yeah.
And let's be realistic. When you're in Rome, you can do what the Romans do, right? You can only do so much, and you cannot be there all the time, right? So there are a lot of constraints. So eventually we decided that we go 100% foreign owned. So we are Woofy. So we set up 100% foreign owned. If there's any failure, it's entirely on our part.
Okay.
We don't have a local partner to blame.
To
So
help,
eventually we took about 2 years to come out and then move on and set up our China office. And again, there are certain targets and certain milestones we all agree for a 5-year initial target.
Yeah.
After the 5th year, if we cannot make it, all the investment, just write it off, move on. Because
cut losses and
cut
go
losses
lah.
and move on. Whatever is invested, just write it off and just come back and say, we tried, don't work, it's okay.
So
Be
5
positive
years was
about
your
it.
mark. 5
That's
years.
right.
So
5
you were
years
very
was
bullish and very optimistic about it, but you gave yourself 5 years.
Yes,
lah.
but then again, there were a lot of constraints and there were a lot of issues over the first 3-4
Was it
years.
mostly a people thing,
It's
staffing
relationship,
thing, or
it's a lot of connections, and that you need to build that. So even people say, oh, you are so established, Shooting Gallery is a known brand.
Yes.
So it's not, I say no. When you go to a new country, you start from zero.
China is
that
a
should be your
whole
attitude.
world
right?
of its own, right?
It's a whole world of its own. When we first went to Vietnam, it's the same thing. We went through all the due process. We meet the government officials. We were invited to set up in Vietnam,
Right.
so that there will be content that will develop, localized content rather than adaptations from foreign content, right?
Yes.
So we were invited and supported, and but then again, it is tough because then a lot of times people want to know how long have you been here, how much you understand the market. You may be for overseas, you may have a good portfolio, but when you come to our country, there are a lot of things that you got to find your way through. Have you gone through and understand how to work around? So there is this bedding in process and understanding to build. It took us a few years.
There's this part that's interesting that you mentioned, because I think there's this discussion about even if you're a regional brand, or even better still a global brand, right? How do you localize it when you go into a country? I mean, it's exactly what you were saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Shooting Gallery may be known across Asia, Southeast Asia,
Yes.
but you step into China,
Yes.
they don't care what happened in any other country, or
That's
Vietnam
true.
for that matter.
Yeah.
So what was the process to actually localize Shooting Gallery to become a player in that market?
Again, I think it comes to also mutual respect and humility. Typically, when we go into country, right, you are a foreign import, you tend to go around, flex your muscle and show, But sometimes, people will respect the fact, oh, maybe you know better. There are some values there.
Sure.
But sometimes people look at it as being too boastful, too arrogant. Right? And then you must understand where the markets are. We are in Asia. At the end of the day, we must know our Asian culture, right? If you boast too much, people think you're arrogant. Then no matter how good you are, because you just don't like the hell of your attitude, right? So you need to build that relationship, that trust. And once you build that trust, the good thing is that in Asia, there's a lot of varieties. So you build that. So the attitude is always that when we just need to work with the timelines, and we will always know that most of the time when we work with the timelines, the time will always come back. So then we will always expand our clientele from one, and then we grow from there. And we don't want to work with the client once and go again. Then we will perpetually look for new
clients all the time.
You can't. It's
why? What's the
too
secret
difficult.
to your clients coming back to you over and over again?
I think very important is the honesty on our part to deliver value, right? And we try as much as possible to add value wherever we can, and that trust, I think, goes a long way. Because then sometimes when the client wants to do something and the budgets are not there, if we know that we can add value, we'll do it. Even it means that sometimes we may not make money, or sometimes we don't make as much. We'll do it because it does add value. A lot of times the client will always think that whatever you suggest as a supplier, right, is so that you spend less, you make more money. Typically. So you need to build that trust.
Really?
You must not be afraid to lose job, because it is also the fact that we must be honest for the client, and we are building relationships and partnerships. So we have built that trust, whether they work with you, otherwise they share with you what is happening. So even like say our first 3 years in China, it was tough, very tough. You only start to pick up after 4th to 5th year, right? Even to a point where my general manager, he's a local Chinese, right? He in charge of the finance. Wow. So, like, my limited Mandarin, right? And also, like, what's the problem? You say, how big is it? You are bleeding, right?
Wow.
You are bleeding. You must cut your losses, stop your expenditure. Everything you buy, you want to buy quality. We tell you to buy this, you say, no, not good enough, you want to buy the expensive. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. How much money you want to throw? Then I told him, I'll say, we have a 5-year target. Now we're in the 4th year. You tell me to cut my losses, then I might as well wrap and go back.
That's right.
But I cannot, even if I need to sell my house, I need to realize my 5-year target. After the 5th year, if we cannot make it, I wrap, I forget everything. I just say, I tried, we failed, move on. I cannot let it be something that carry for the rest of my life, say, oh, I lost this money. You need to have that positive, move on.
And you don't want to cut
challenge
too
another
early.
day, right?
You don't want to
You cut too early, you never know how close you are to success because you don't know, right? So I say, 老师，对不起，不可以。I need to bleed, I have to bleed. You tell me this on the 5th year. I listen to you. You tell me it cannot make sense, we can't survive. I check, tell Freddie, I tell my partners, look, maybe we should just back and forth. But then when after the 4th year,
what was the turning point?
I think also the people, very much the people, you must trust the people.
People as in the staff?
As a staff, as the people who will make the difference. At the end of the day, we are nothing without the people around us.
Totally.
I cannot do anything because at the end of the day, I can only provide opportunity for them. But they make things happen. If I don't give them opportunity for them to realize their full potential, right? The more I'm afraid that they will leave,
Right.
So I give them every opportunity for them to win the trust. Then after the 3rd year, we always have this Chinese New Year gathering for all the staff, right? And initially when I say, no, look, I set up this China office, it's not for me, it's for you. Eventually this is for you because then you have moved on, I will have to move back. I'm not
Singapore is still your home. Yeah.
Our model is that we go to a country, set up a country, set the base, we bring our people there, train, secure, we all go back, then you all can flourish and grow. Because if we are there, then we are a burden because our cost will be so much higher then you are actually incurring so high overheads, you can't survive. So we must transfer whatever capability, build the capability, whatever profit you make, you all decide. Is for all of you, right? Yeah, whatever you appreciate, even you say you give me 1%, I'm okay. But whatever investment I put in, return me my investment. But then I'm putting this investment not for me, I'm putting this investment in the risk for you, right?
Isn't it hard to convey a thought process like that?
It is very difficult. Right? So when I first convey this model and idea, they never tell me, but they were all laughing among themselves. Say,
they take you for a sucker, right?
They say, no way, why would you want to give me opportunity? Who am I that you want to invest in? After the 3rd year, after our Chinese New Year gathering, right, one by one, pull me aside. I work hard for you because now I believe you. So we turn around.
The loyalty is there because it's proven.
That's right.
What you said.
So they start to believe and they start to realize, yeah, why you giving me so much opportunity? Even I take anything, you give me the chance so that I can train, I can better.
Mindset and the people started changing and started evolving in this way. It made a difference to your business.
Oh, make a lot of difference because then they take ownership.
Right.
The biggest problem is always people whether they take ownership. If they don't take ownership because they think that they're working for you, what should I say for you? If I take ownership, then I know even I work hard. On paper, I'm working for you. Actually, I'm working for myself. Then I have a future with the company. I sense a belonging. So eventually, like after the 4th year, we start to pick up. I think the China office is turning around unimaginable turnover that we never even.
I just wanted to touch on one or two things more that we plan, right? And one of it is about your philosophy towards investing ahead on technology, on making sure you have the best. You know, even this place that we are sitting right now, right? This 360 camera thing. Like, how many people have this set up in their studios there, ready to take these kind of shots, right? You have 3D printers. You have invested in cameras that one of a kind in Asia. Your Bolt camera. What's your philosophy there? Because that's huge investment. That's a lot of money. Why are you so sure that's going to pay off?
We can never be sure whether it will pay off. But to me, it's always like knowledge is power. And you got to pay to learn. right? And if we are not willing to invest in ourselves, how are we to be ahead? So I think while we put aside some of the profitability to do R&D, to develop something new, I think what is most important for us is always to remain curious, to be curious, and to explore the unknown, especially in our industry that we're familiar with. Sometimes people say, oh, this not available. That's good, let's try, you know?
Yeah.
So we had this, and we first bought our 3D printer. The industry standard scanners were handheld. You know? Then I look at it and say, this is not good, you know? Not, the person need to keep still for 10, 15 minutes for you to get a scan. I cannot do animals. Even old people, they will jitter, they get corrupted files. We must do 360. Then
Spot on every time.
Then they say, oh, what do you mean 360? No such thing lah.
Yeah, the concept was not even
Good
there.
lah. Let's try, you know.
Yeah.
Let's try.
Yeah.
So instead of using continuous light, we use flash. We spend some R&D. We develop ourselves. We explore. Did a lot of tests. We spent about a year plus to come up with this 360 scanner. But now there are a lot of these around the world.
How many cameras am I looking at here? Like
This
everywhere
is-
I turn, there's a lens.
This is only 82.
Only 82 cameras pointing at me right now.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
a balance of how many cameras. Of course, if you have
Yeah.
more, you can go into more details. Then it's also like some word we use anti fragility. You know, like say in case of their failures, then at least there are enough overlap
Right.
to cover
From every angle.
every
Yeah.
angle. That's right. So then you can stitch from there.
Tell me about the boat. The boat is like what, one in Southeast Asia? How many are there right now?
Now when we bought it, yeah, we were the only one in the whole region. But now there is one in Indonesia, there is one in Vietnam, there is one or two in Bangkok. Yeah.
That is still very, very few
There
considering the
that's right.
amount
Yeah.
of content.
Yeah, I just heard that there is actually another one in Singapore, but they yet to get it
Okay.
set up.
Okay. And you went for that because you wanted to change up the way y'all were able to shoot all these motion shots.
It gives us different capability. And I think it's also important for us to have a competitive advantage. Sometimes high cost of investment is good. Because when you have low cost investment, there are too many people who are able to come on board, and you cannot maintain certain quality. You become so competitive that everybody competing to bring the price lower.
Right. So it's a fight all
Yeah.
the way down.
And I think even though sometimes when you look at the price point, right, we have to look at what is realistic and what the market can allow. So even let's say if we look at the investment in this high-speed robot, right, and if we were to compare what is international market price, then I think the local market will not be able to afford it, and as good as a white elephant. So we're going to balance and add value to other areas, package it, realistically speaking.
Ensure that you're meeting a market gap.
That's right,
that
and
can actually
give certain capability that without it we will never be able to realize that kind of look, that kind of production value quality.
Yes.
Right. So it's an investment, and part of it is also opportunity. So and I've been telling my own people, right? Basically, it's a motion control rig, right? If my people are trained in that motion control rig, they have got value globally. There are only so many people who are able to operate motion control rigs. So just imagine that how valuable
the capability is
created for that person's
the skill
capability,
set,
the skill sets,
that
right?
they have, yeah.
You can travel all over the world.
I think it's amazing because when every time you speak, right, you go back to this about how you give back to the people who are working for you, and your mindset is always about how they can be, they will profit from this, or the value that they will gain as individuals.
Yeah,
right?
I get a lot of satisfaction to see people around me, especially the young, to move up. I feel proud when they make a space for them globally or regionally. I think in the past, because in the past I was very fortunate in the past when we were doing all the work, we had so much global presence and we're winning global awards until we don't even
Cannes Festival
bother.
and all that,
We don't
you know.
even bother to record, because almost like any any global award, whether it's DNAD, is New York Gold, it's almost like picking those awards is like one of those things that you do, you know. So much so we don't value, but then again, it gives you a lot of satisfaction and pride. Right? When we first started, there was a directory called Art Directors Index to Photographers.
Okay.
Right. So this will be all the photographers throughout the world.
Wow. Do you still have a copy of that?
I think we should have.
It would be insane if we
So
can
it's
still
called
see
Art
that.
Directors Index to Photographers, right? So every advertising agency will have a copy of that, right? And it's like $100 per book,
Yeah.
you know.
It's the yellow pages of the art
art
industry.
Then when we started Student Gallery, the publisher Brian Morris and Mark Tan from Page One, right? Mark Tan is a distributor for Singapore. The publisher is Brian Morris from Switzerland. They will come and Mark will talk to Brian, we'll set up this company. Okay, give Sep 4 pages free.
Wow, nice.
So they got us our first. Every year they come and tell us, oh, everywhere around the world, all the photographers are still what Student Gallery doing this year.
Wow.
Because we were doing cutting edge photography, analog, multiple exposures, all in camera. One sheet of film, you have 14, 15 exposures. Once we have digital imaging, right?
Yeah.
The value just go down. Nobody appreciate you do anything in camera. They will say,
Yeah.
give me all the components that I'll do it. I'll retouch, right?
Yeah.
But when we do the analog days, so then there's only a few people in the world who will be able to do that.
I saw your latest show reel. Absolutely amazing. I mean, in those days, it was this art director index,
That's
right?
right, that's
Today, it's
right,
probably
yeah.
social media
That's right,
and
that's
digital
right,
media
yeah,
to
that's
push
right,
it
yeah.
out, right?
Yeah,
In
that's
terms
right,
of the
that's right,
presence
yeah,
and
that's
all that.
right,
It's
yeah.
really amazing.
But I must say we are doing pretty good work in China. Because at least now we see the Chinese market pushing for quality, pushing boundaries and trying to explore and really do good work. So I'm proud that some of the best work we see coming out of China.
I saw some of that. Really
Very good
amazing.
scientists.
You mentioned about digital photography and its proliferation. You saw the whole evolution
went in
from,
very early as
from
well.
that.
That's right,
yeah.
yes.
What are your thoughts today about it? Because I think the naysayers on digital photography are long gone already, right?
Yes,
In terms of the how fast it has proliferated.
Right.
But do you think that digital photography has taken away some of the art behind photography? And
Definitely. That is why I always like photographers to have the basic foundation. The foundation is very important. While digital photography allow you this enormous capability or opportunity for you to create whatever you want. But then understanding on the basic fundamentals and principles is so important. When people look at your shot, do they come across and say, wow, this is one shot, or this, retouched. But you must do it so well that you cannot see that it's retouched. Because then it can only work when you have total understanding of the principles, lighting, camera, angle, perspectives. Right? You cannot say, I can take anything I can put together, and it's, I can distort. But you can't change dimensions. You shoot something from the low angle, you don't have a top. You shoot something from the top angle, you have a top, but you don't have the you can distort to match the perspective, but then your dimensions will not be in line because your perspective will not be matched. But if you understand the strong principles and fundamentals, right, when you put together, you just say that, no, this is definitely short. It's not possible to be put together. I mean, we did one commercial, it was so funny. We did a commercial for IKEA that won the gold in Cannes, right, many years back. The whole commercial was shot in studio.
Right.
And Linda Locke and his producer EP then, Anthony Lee, they were betting as to whether it was shot on location or whether it's... Because Anthony was familiar, Anthony would know about the job. Anthony says that they shoot everything in the studio. And Linda, a very, very detailed and critical creative director and CCO and chairman of, such, she looked at it and said, no way this can be studio. It's too real to be studio. One of the things that in the early years, right, even to get CGI crowds, right, were a challenge. And so we had a proposal to do a simple commercial for Newsweek. So Newsweek, of course, is real. It's news, right? So the whole idea is like, you open dark, and then the camera pan up over this home. Then you see the everything is dark. Then as the light change from early morning
Yes.
to day to evening to night, sunrise, sunset. As you go up, you see a weather vane, right? The weather vane swing to north. Then you have you hear news coming on something that's happening in the north. Right? Not possible. Then I say, okay, we have to do CGI, right? So I got my team put together, do some tests. It's a long time ago.
I remember seeing that as a clip in one of your show reels.
Is it?
And,
We don't even have it now. It's
Yeah.
such a long time ago. But then those are the early years, right? When you
Yeah.
talk about photorealistic CGI,
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
when
the art behind being able to create something like that back then was
that's right, yeah,
so
that's
different.
right. But the rest, how you shoot, then I say, bro, not a single frame of film was worked. Totally CGI. Share with you also, I did a commercial for Tiger Beer,
Okay.
right? It's a new branding,
Yeah.
right? Where it's a drastic change from the original bottle and label were all a new launch, right? Then, so to reveal the new product, the new label and the new bottle is to use the water droplet as a mechanism to reveal the
The change
embossed,
in the logo.
the neck label, and the bottle, right?
Got it. Yeah.
So then I went to the post house and so of course CGI, I mean, how to shoot
A drop of water.
water droplet live, to stop where you want to stop and then, and then move on to reveal bit by bit. Then my producer arranged for me to brief the post, CGI post. Then I said, okay, this is what I want. Look, when we are in the tropics, so the atmosphere is warm, beer is cold. You will have a lot of condensation,
Yes.
right? So the bottle, when it's fresh, it come out, there's a lot of condensation. So when you use this water droplet as mechanism to reveal, this water droplet will jiggle.
Oh.
Because when there are small droplets,
Yeah.
when it moves, it pick up, it will jiggle, pick
It
up,
won't
pick
flow
up.
straight,
It gets
no way,
small to
yeah.
big. I said, no.
There's no way to control
If,
the weight of water droplets.
if they can't give me that,
Yeah.
I believe I can shoot live. So we did tests. Through years of observing and working with lipids, and I've been shooting. I did all the Bible for Tiger Beer, right? So I spent 1 month shooting only nothing but beer with Edmund. So that becomes the Tiger Beer Bible. Anywhere in the world you want to shoot Tiger Beer, you must follow this. So we did that. So I understand the characteristics, intricacies of water, viscosity, the surface tension.
Yeah.
So we work on the surface tension, how smooth is the bottle,
Right.
right? How heavy is the water, right? And where to create the fiction, right? And we went to the studio, we set up everything. We did one test with the creative director. Do, click, got it.
What?
Creative director said,
Can't believe what
How
just
do you
happened.
but it's great because then nobody can question it. The client cannot question it all because this is as real as it can be because it's real. Because we test all the different weight of the water, so that how fast it flows, and how to create that friction for it to slow down and
At the right
stop,
spots.
right? Where it's supposed to stop. And because of gravity alone, because of the weight, it will slowly pull through and go to the next area
will-
where there is a
Which will
friction.
cause the reveal.
It's so
of it.
simple.
Right.
It's basically how smooth is a glass and just Vaseline, just rub, just visually you can't see, but that create the tension and the friction for the water droplet to slow down and stop. And
Right
then
where you
because of the gravity, it start to flow again.
Yes.
Exactly where we want.
Yes.
And I create like a channel where the water is supposed to flow.
Yeah.
Then after that, I just find water droplet, it hide that route,
Okay.
right? Then when it move, it go on that route, it reveal that route. So visually, you can't see at all.
So thanks for taking the time.
My
Seb.
pleasure.
You know, I always learn so much from speaking to you. It's not the first time we sat down to talk. It's just the first time we sat down to talk in front of cameras, right? And it's always a pleasure to learn. And you know, like a young entrepreneur like myself, trying to come up and understanding some of the concepts that took you from where you were 33 years ago.
33 years ago at Shooting Gallery there.
Figuring out a 5-year plan to now today what Shooting Gallery is and this amazing place. Always learn so much. Yeah.
Thank
So to our listeners and our audience, if you have questions or comments about what we just discussed, please feel free to drop them below this video. We will love to hear from you. And if you have more questions, maybe we can set up a second interview with Seb to hear from him about more stories related to all the amazing shoots that he has done. So with that, we're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much, Seb.
Thank
once
you.
again. Thank you again. Yeah.